What it is, yo. We are back with another Top 5 exclusive here at MacGuffinPodcast.com. I'm Alan.
I'm Brandi.
And today on Top 5, we are going to be talking about our Top 5 duos.
Yes.
It's great to be an adventure. It's even better to be an adventure with a friend.
Yes.
Boom. Psh. So, let's get to it.
Especially a friend who plays drums.
Yes. All right, so let's get to it. I'll start off first this time. My number 5 pick is Jay and Silent Bob.
I can honestly say that this one did not even occur to me to put on my possibilities list.
I think of all the characters that Kevin Smith has created in his career, I think Jay and Silent Bob are the two most memorable. Kind of like fair. C-3PO and R2-D2, but the stoner version.
Which one of them would be the smart one in that scenario?
That's a debate we can get into another time.
Okay. Since there's a Silent Bob, obviously.
Okay, Silent Bob, yes. But you know, they have great camaraderie, great chemistry. I love the fact that Kevin Smith has Jay doing all the talking and Silent Bob doing none of the talking, where in real life Jay barely talks and sometimes Kevin Smith won't shut up. I mean, from Clerks to Mallrats, Chasing Amy, all the way through Clerks 2, they've been the highlight of those films. Yeah, I mean, I love those two stoner heads. So
sure.
Not much to add, huh? They're a duo? At least?
They are a duo.
Cool. All right.
All right. Nothing against them. Just whatever. All right. My number 5, from a film we discuss a little bit on this podcast, from a company we discuss a lot, that's Pixar, and that is from the movie Up. As Carl and Russell, the old man and the little boy. I gotta say, I knew I would enjoy this film going into it because it's Pixar, because the previews were so great. But that was the part of the film that touched me the most, was their relationship, the way it developed over the course, and that you could be so touched by the end of the film from them just sitting on a curb chatting about nothing. You know, great interplay. It's amazing to me that they found a child voice actor who was able to really hold his own against Ed Asner. I mean, I know they're not exactly in the same room when they're making the film, but still, you need to go up against that kind of talent and to completely match it. I mean, it's a great cross-generational friendship.
Great duo. I love the fact that the kid is a fat Asian kid.
You can identify with that.
I can totally identify with that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The background that they gave for both of those characters is amazing, and the way they put it all together at the end is just really, really touching. Yeah. So, all right, moving on to my number 4. Speaking of old men and young kids, my number 4 pick. Hey, out of the gutter, people, out of the gutter. My number 4 pick is Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san.
It's a good pick. No, it's a good pick.
Oh, we are going.
Just don't go like this when you do it.
Going into realms we shouldn't even be talking about. All right, calm down, people. Mr. Miyagi, Daniel LaRusso, Karate Kid. You have the old mentor who has this kind of past that he's trying to deal with. You have this kid who's new in school, being bullied around, trying to stick up for himself. And you have martial arts. It's a great movie. Great performance, particularly by Pat Morita, who we know was nominated for an Oscar.
It's a great film.
The relationship, even with, you know, Karate Kid Part 2 and Part 3, you can say what you want about the quality of those films, but, you know, their dynamic was great throughout all 3, so...
Agreed.
Yes.
It's a good one. All right. My number 4 is a duo that comes from one of my favorite films of all time. Possibly my favorite film of all time, depending on the day you ask me. I know I say that a lot. I have a few movies that oscillate. And that is Inigo Montoya and Fezzik from The Princess Bride.
Okay.
They don't get a ton of screen time together, but those moments when they're there, the comic timing back and forth is great. Later on in the movie when they meet up and Fezzik has to sort of pull Inigo out of his stupor and help him complete his mission, it's great. I know you don't love it when I bring up a book in relation to a movie, but believe it or not, The Princess Bride was a book before it was a movie. and their relationship is also awesome in that and has more depth to it. And I love this movie. I love those characters, and I think they're a great sort of like fairy tale odd couple going on. Yeah. Great actors too, Mandy Patinkin and Andre the Giant.
Yeah, it's a great kind of odd couple, you know, with this huge guy and this sort of like little Spanish dude who's trying to get revenge and everything like that. It's, yeah, great characters, great movie. So, speaking of great movies, my number 3 pick is from Back to the Future. Yes, it is Marty McFly.
I thought about this one.
And Doc Brown. You have,
speaking of old men and young boys, right?
Yes, I have a theme. Shh. But yes, you have Christopher Lloyd as this crazy scientist, probably one of the quintessential crazy scientists in all the movies. You have Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, who's just one of the coolest characters from the 80s. And I mean, you have this great sci-fi story about going back in time, going forward in time, going back into the Old West.
I think our love for this movie is pretty well established.
It's clear. I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious that we all love these films and these characters. Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? I mean, they're a great duo and a great friendship, so it's awesome.
Good times.
Good times.
I'm glad you had that, because I thought about it. I didn't put it. All right. My number 3, from an older film, which I know you also like.
Okay.
The actors are Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon.
Oh!
And they play Joe and Jerry in Some Like It Hot.
Yes.
And then they each have their alter egos that they take on as well. Tony Curtis, Joe also has Josephine / Shell Oil Jr. later in the film. Jerry, Jack Lemmon as Daphne. They dress in drag because they're on the run from the mob. Because what else would you do if you were on the run from the mob?
I would, I mean, I would jump on a train filled with a female band and go to Florida. Yeah. Great.
Like if you said this was the funniest movie of all time, I wouldn't argue with you. AFI said it was.
Yes.
I wouldn't argue.
Yes.
And the two of them together were just
magic. It's
magic. I mean, I was trying to think of a word to say that wasn't magic because I was like, that's so, but it is. Like it's incredible to watch them.
Just the one-liners.
The timing, the one-liners back and forth. I can't even imagine any other actors in the roles together doing it and pulling it off.
Yes.
Which is, I think, the definition of a great duo is when you just can't even fathom it not being the way that it is.
Yep. I mean, I completely agree with you. I love that film. I can't believe I didn't think about that one. I mean, that film is like one of my top 10, 15 films of all time.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed in myself.
Don't be disappointed.
All right, but I'm glad you mentioned it. All right, my number 2 pick is a tandem from a couple older films, classic duo. I'm going to have to cheat a little bit because I'm going to be talking about 2 movies.
Okay.
The duo is Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
Ooh.
The films are Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, and The Sting.
Yeah. Good one. See, I didn't think about Butch and Sundance like that. That's my shame.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that, you know, we associate Paul Newman and Robert Redford together so much. You know, they're like linked at the hip or whatever, but they were only in 2 films. And Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid was the first one. But, I mean, they hit it off so well. Just like Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis, the dialogue, the comedy between the two, the chemistry was all there. I mean, Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid is a great Western. And
amazing.
The Sting is one of the great con movies of all time. I mean, even like just them outside of films, I mean, their relationship and how they pull pranks on each other and everything like that is just awesome. You could tell that was a real friendship that lasted.
That's the thing. Where the actors can bring the script to life in such a way that you completely believe that these characters have known each other for years before the movie ever starts. Like, that's gold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Second occurrence of screenwriter William Goldman, too. Butch Cassidy, Princess Bride.
Hello.
Love him. All right. My number 2, to get some ladies up in here. Also, one of my favorite films of all time, Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, for all the instances of awesome male camaraderie that you see on film, there's probably like 1 per 100 that you get to see of female camaraderie, like a real friendship, being supportive of each other, joking with each other, doing the things that real friends do. Thelma and Louise is not the most realistic story in the world, but the friendship that they have is realistic, and the insane set of events that get set off makes sense when you know those personalities, when you know what those characters have been through, when you know what they will do for each other. And I think it's an incredible film, and that Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon give incredible performances. I wish that there were more movies like this where you get to take two female characters so seriously and let them be at the crux of a film that's about the choices that you have to make when you're faced with those kinds of circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, it's they made those two characters so well, and their chemistry was so good together that, you know, by the end, I mean, I'm not gonna give it away. By the end, you know,
if you don't know,
what happened to those two characters, kind of sad, but we feel satisfied because they're so fully realized together. So, moving on to my number one. Duo. My number one duo is from a film from 1967, and it was Bonnie and Clyde.
Nice.
Speaking about putting some women onto these lists. Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, the two lovers on the run. I mean, the acting was great between those two characters. The supporting characters with Gene Hackman, Estelle Parsons, and a cameo by Gene Wilder is great. It's just, you could tell that these two people loved each other, and it wasn't even something about sex, as if you watch the film, you would know why it's not about sex. They're just two people that needed each other, that needed to break out.
Yeah.
It was during a time where, you know, bank robbing was, you know, kind of being passé and everything like that. Just two really interesting characters, an interesting film that really marked the beginning of the new American wave. I mean, what else can you say? Bonnie and Clyde. So
great movie.
Yeah.
All right. My number one, not exactly Bonnie and Clyde, but they could be criminals if you really think about it at the beginning of the first film. Han Solo and Chewbacca. That's what I went with. They're rebels, yeah, right? Rebels. Like we get the feeling that Han Solo has done a few things that maybe weren't exactly like right within colors outside the lines a little bit, right? I had to include this one on my list, and once I started ranking things, I was kind of like, well, they're so iconic. Like, you might as well put them at number one. I'm not like super hardcore Star Wars fan like some people is. I do love the movies, and I think that like the adventures of Han Solo are one of my favorite parts of it. And then Chewbacca's just great as well.
Yeah, I mean, Han Solo,
Pilot
Chewbacca,
and co-pilot. I mean,
they're totally cool. I mean, would you say that Han Solo kind of treats Chewbacca more like a pet than an actual friend?
I don't know. He probably treats Chewbacca better than he does Leia. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's getting into a debate that we can talk about later. But you're right. You know, the two are great. Chewbacca probably one of the coolest characters all he does is bark.
They're the most iconic of what was on my list, so I put them at number one.
Cool. All right. Well, that does it for our top 5 duos. If you have any that you'd like to contribute, please let us know at MacGuffinPodcast.com, and we'll see you guys next time.